We help people heal from past experiences so they can be the best version of themselves.
Right.
Because a happy we starts with a happy me.
Correct.
Right. And the reason why there's not a happy we is because it's me. Because I can't, if Tanya, my happiness should not be contingent on Tanya.
Correct.
It's my responsibility. My happiness is my responsibility. Everyone, and welcome to another episode of Marriage Matters. This is a podcast where we talk about marriage matters because
marriage matters.
So that's what we're all about. If you're watching for the very first time, or if you're watching for the 100th time, I'm Glenn Coleman, and I'm joined, as always, by the woman that still does it for me after 21 years.
Hi, everyone. I'm Tanya Coleman.
And we're the Colemans.
We are the Colemans.
I never know what to say after that. After you say, hi, I'm Tanya Coleman.
Yes.
Maybe you should say something like, and I'm so happy to be with you.
Maybe I should. Okay, I will add to the introduction.
Okay, that'll work. Okay. As you can see, in the background, it's beginning to look a lot like Christmas. Yay. This is my favorite time of year.
My favorite time of year as
Thanksgiving, all this. And for me, it's just it's more of, because usually it's more of a downtime for us. We usually take some time off, and it's a downtime, the time to reconnect, kind of re-strategize, re-energize. What, I got something?
No.
Oh. So, and also just being able to be with family, be with friends, and people are usually in a lot better mood.
Yes.
You know, and people are usually more giving and have a giving spirit. So like this time of year. So let us know in the comments if you like the holiday season.
It is also our birthday month.
It is.
Actually posted that the other day on our page.
I forget about that.
That this is our birthday month. It was Jesus, me, and then Glenn. We were born in that order.
Exactly.
Not on the same day.
I was about to make a joke about
days
that.
Days and years apart.
I was going to make a joke about it.
Leave it alone.
Okay.
Leave it alone. Leave it alone.
You know, that was that old school mama joke where they was like, your mama's so old. When God said, let there be light, you turn on the light switch. You're not
talking about me,
No,
right?
You're not that old.
Okay,
no.
yeah.
Actually, you're younger than me.
Yes, I am.
Wink, wink. So anyway.
In my spirits.
Yeah, so today we're going to be talking about intimacy, and we've talked about intimacy before. When I say intimacy, what comes to mind for you?
Intimacy for me is connection, like on all levels, mental, physical, spiritual. Intimacy it's an acquaintance, a deep acquaintance with someone, a deep connection with someone. And there's a great sense of vulnerability and openness with the person that you have intimacy with.
Okay, yeah, I like the fact, and we didn't talk about this before, but that just shows you that maybe we've had these discussions before, and we are working on intimacy, because when I think of intimacy, the word that comes to mind, connection. Okay, and that's how I see it. Yep.
Good job.
So I've heard some people say, intimacy, it really means intimacy. Sure. Really being intimate. And so, and that's what, for us, what intimacy is, and when we're coaching with couples, a lot of times I remember a conversation we had not that long ago, we were talking to a couple and we were telling them that, we can give you all the tools. We have our segment. Sometimes we do tips, tricks, and tools, right? We can give you the tools, but, when it comes to intimacy, there's not a word you can say or a line you can say.
Right.
You can't just quote a Brian McKnight song. Right. And you know what I'm saying? Because everyone is unique. Every couple is unique. Every dynamic is unique. So there's not a one size fits all. And I know a lot of times when people come to us, they're wanting us to fix the marriage and It's like, we can't do that. Our job is to help you fix you. And then once you fix you, you are really free and open to be intimate. So I just kind of gave you the punchline at the beginning. So what do you think about all of that?
I think that's absolutely true. I mean, the process of growing intimately acquainted with someone is just that. It's a process. And it's when you go on a journey with a person. It's when you build trust with a person. It's when you build dependability with a person, right? It's when you build stability with someone, right? And that's a process and a journey that doesn't happen, immediately in relationships. It happens over a period of time, and it's also done intentionally. It's also done by creating moments to connect, as we said, in different ways. A lot of times when we're having conversations with couples that we're coaching, or if I'm working with a couple or individual, and they say intimacy, they are talking about sex. But when I say intimacy, I'm not necessarily always talking about sex, and so sometimes people's understanding or their definition of intimacy is just that, and that the physical act. But intimacy is so much bigger than the physical act. Intimacy is that connection in that emotional space. It's that connection in that spiritual space. It's like all of the cylinders are hitting, right? And so I think sometimes people get confused about the differences between the two.
And I will say, though, but there is for me, a direct correlation between a healthy sex life and intimacy or connection. And I know a lot of times for us men, we want to skip over that part because a lot of times we see the act of sex as connection, right? But for women, it's different. Needs
all of the other things that we spoke of before. Most of the time, the physical connection. She needs everything else. She needs the emotional, the spiritual, the understanding, the support. All of the things that we talked about before, that she can really be vulnerable even in that physical space, and just because you're doing an act doesn't mean that you're being vulnerable in the act.
And I was going to add to that though, but I just don't think I know for me, I didn't realize how much I needed all those other things too, the emotional side. And I know a lot of times we as men, we're not taught that we need that, or we're not taught to value that. Right. But we do need that. So my point is, I wanted to say to all the fellas out there is, I know it doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel right. It may feel icky. I don't know any other word to say.
Uncomfortable?
Uncomfortable. Thank you. Icky. That sounds like that's a much better word. It's uncomfortable, but it's the benefit of it, not only for your marriage, but for yourself. Yeah. Because we all need and we all crave connection. Right. And that's what intimacy is. One other definition I want to say is shout out to our virtual friend who we haven't met yet, but Shamira, what's her last name? I don't remember her last name. Do you?
I don't remember her last name right now either.
But anyway, she's also a therapist. You can find her on Instagram. But she says true intimacy is to be seen, heard, and valued. Yeah. To be seen, to be heard, and to be valued. So what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about a big part of intimacy, a big missing component, I think, where a lot of people miss it is intentionality. Yeah. And it's, I say this a lot in our coaching sessions, intentional, your intentions don't matter a lot because when I say it's like, people say, I didn't intend to hurt your feelings. And I'm like, well,
what I was intending.
That doesn't matter because their feelings were hurt. Right. But intentionality, to me, those are two different things. What my intentions were and also being intentional. Those are two different things. Yeah. And once I find out what I need and what she needs, or vice versa, then I have to become intentional about that. So for me, you had something to add?
Well, I was going to say, I think what it is that people, that wasn't my intention, right? And so that wasn't what I meant, right? That wasn't what I was thinking or I was feeling. But what we don't realize is that being intentional is actually a verb. Like there's action taking place. There's movement taking place. So a lot of times when they said that wasn't my intention, that means that that's not what I was feeling or what I was thinking, right? Yeah. And so we don't realize that, in order to actually be intentional, if I'm going to be intentional about a thing, that means that I actually have to do something on purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I would say another buzzword maybe that we could add to intentionality is the why. The why behind matters. If we go back to the sexual question, it's like, I'm not trying to connect with you just for the sex. I'm trying to connect with you because I really want to know you. I really want to see you. I want to hear you, and I want to value you. That's why I'm trying to connect with you. The byproduct is the physical relationship, right? Does that make sense? So for me, the first place that I had to start to experience true connection or true intimacy, I believe, with you is understanding that, first of all, it starts with me.
Sure.
It starts with me. And so I had to work on healing me so I could be really emotionally connect with you, because there were so many times when you would say something, especially when you were, and I'm using this word, again, I don't know, I can't find words today, but I'm using this word because I can't find another word. But when you would complain about something, especially something about me to me, my first reaction was offense, because I didn't want to seem like I didn't either know what I was doing or I didn't have it under control or whatever. So in other words, ego got in the way. And insecurities got in the way, and all these things got in the way. But for me, I had to really go and figure out, okay, why am I so insecure about this? Or why am I, and they kind of, it plays into it, because if I go back to my intention, if it really wasn't my intention to hurt you, then why am I so offended when you are? Because I know that's not my intention. And so now I'm kind of getting ahead of myself, but if I could get me out of the way.
Right.
Obviously, what you're dealing with in this moment is not about me. If I wasn't intentionally doing that, then that's something that's going on with you. Now I can hold space for you, and I can help you, and I can be there to catch your story, and to and walk you through that process. But all of that starts with my healing, and I believe a lot of times the reason why a lot of couples struggle with this is because they're both trying to defend and protect themselves.
Right.
And they can't get out of the way of themselves, I guess. You know?
And because a lot of times it's like in those moments where you say complain, but I may have brought something to your attention,
and I may be perceiving it as
a complaint. So because you're perceiving it as in a negative way, as an attack because of that ego. But in that moment, it's not about you. It's about my feelings, my pain, my hurt, my perspective, right? And so because we are intimately connected, then having those conversations, we have to get to a place to where we are healed, or we can work through not being offended, so that we can hold that space to really hear. Because in that moment, it's such an opportunity to learn. It's such an opportunity to learn from your spouse more about them, and also learn how you're showing up with them, and additional areas where you and probably both of you need to grow.
Yeah.
You know?
So do me a favor. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to pay attention to that when your partner says something to you, and if you're getting offended by what your partner, and I always go back, I was sharing this with the guy the other day, how God told me, stop listening to how she's saying what she's saying, and listen to, it's not how he said it, let me say it how he said it. Stop listening to how she's saying it and listen to what she said. Because I was so caught up in, you're not going to talk to me that way, I'm a man, you're not my mama, all this other stuff. And I was missing the point because I was getting offended. I was missing the point of what you were saying.
Right.
So if you're finding yourself and again, we're not talking about abusive.
No, not at all.
Relationships. We're not talking about verbal abuse, physical abuse, none of those things. Mm-hmm. If that's going on, you need to get yourself into a safe situation.
Into a safe space.
But I'm just saying, when you guys are not seeing eye to eye and you're getting offended at what your spouse is saying, I want you to take a beat and really step back and examine, why am I so offended by what she's saying?
Correct.
Or what he's saying?
Because your response is about you. It's not about them.
Yeah.
Their response to whatever it is that they're bringing to your attention that's hurting to them or disappointing or what have you, that's about them.
Yeah.
Right? And because it's about them, but maybe it was your behavior, your actions that caused that feeling, it's important for them to bring it to you, but their process of working through it in that moment is about them. Your attention is on them in that moment, right? And your response is not about them. Your response is about you.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. So I'll say it this way. Triggers are unresolved pain.
Yeah.
Bottom line.
Yeah.
So if you're being triggered by something, 99.9% of the time, it's something from your past that's causing that trigger. So what?
Nothing. Finish your thought. I just had a funny thought.
Go ahead. So when you're being triggered, okay, what's the why? And a lot of times it's not about what's happening in the moment. It's the past pain, it's the past experience.
Right.
So that's number one. We have to get here. And that's why we say our motto is we help couples heal from past experiences so they can be the best version of themselves. Because here's why. We
say we help people.
I'm sorry. We help people.
Not couples. We help people.
We help people. You're right.
Because there's individuals in the couple.
Yeah. I'm sorry. See, that didn't offend me at all.
I just want to get the message out there clear to make sure people understand.
We help people heal from past experiences so they can be the best version of themselves.
Right.
Because a happy we starts with a happy me.
Correct.
Right. And the reason why there's not a happy we is because it's me. Because I can't, if Tanya, my happiness should not be contingent on Tanya.
Correct.
Bottom line. And if I'm doing that, that's not Tanya's fault. That's my fault. That's and I ain't gonna say it's my fault, but those are things that I need to. Thank you. It's my responsibility. My happiness is my responsibility. Okay, so that's number one. So to understand that it starts with me. So now, for me, so I'm talking from a me perspective. The second thing I have to realize is it started with me, but the second thing is it's not about me.
Yeah.
And I put this in there. It's not always about me.
Correct.
Because there was a time in my life where I lived in a way where it was I said it's never about me. And I was denying myself.
Right.
And depriving myself. So that's on the other side of the spectrum.
Other side of the spectrum.
So I had to change that to it's not always about me.
Right.
Right. So this is a very selfless process. That should be more than just posturing, because here's the other thing. Being intentional, it's not about just going through the motions. It's like I have to really get to a place where I really care about what's going on in and with my spouse.
Yes.
But that can only happen with number one. I have to be healed first. I have to be at zero, as our friends Mark and Melissa over at the kitchen table always says. You have to be at zero. You can't be triggered in order to hold space. I'm not saying you can't, but it's hard to be triggered and hold space for other people.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Anything?
No, that's I think that's absolutely true. And so be careful, careful in that sometimes some people find themselves saying, well, it's never about me. It's always about my family. It's always about my wife. And so they get into this self-sacrificial, like they are Jesus hung on the cross kind of mindset. And then after a while, you can only do that for so long. Then you begin to become resentful of the people that you're sacrificing for, because no one ever thinks about me. No one ever considers me. I'm always doing things for everyone else. But you chose to not take care of you.
Yeah.
You chose to not offer your opinions, your feelings, your suggestions, your perspectives. You chose to self-sacrifice, and that superhero complex comes on. That stuff starts in childhood. That's unhealed issues or things that people have from their childhood that they brought into their adult life, that I have to put on this S on my chest and my Superman cape and sacrifice and save everyone. That's not your job.
Yeah.
We are to be responsible and take care of our families in the way that we should, but we're also responsible, as you just said, to take care of ourselves.
Yeah. But there is this, once you are truly here, and you learn how to balance that.
Correct.
And understand that this process is it's a very selfless act. So, when you're doing this, you got to be genuine.
Yes.
Honoring your commitments, be, kindfulness, thoughtfulness, spend time thinking about your spouse and the situations that they're in. And what that does is it helps you to develop empathy and teaches you to see things from their perspective and to walk in their shoes. When you're hurting, then that means I'm hurting. I have to hurt with you. Even if I'm not the one that caused the hurt. And find ways to empathize in situations. And here's a note. It says, emotional wounds require emotional first aid. So when somebody is hurt emotionally, I remember this, and I may have told this story on the show. But I remember, I was really young. I was maybe 20, 22, 23, 24. It's really, really early on when we were when we were working for the church. And I remember Pastor Norman was out of town, and there was a member of the church that was going through something with his family. And this guy was like probably 20 years my senior. So here's maybe even more than that. So he calls me and said, hey, you got to go over there. I need you to go over there. I'm driving over there. I'm like, what am I going to tell this man who's lived twice my life?
Right.
What am I going to, and when I remember walking into that room and I just hugged him, and he just cried on my shoulder for I don't know how long it was. And I never said anything. And from then on, I just saw the respect that he had for me go up to another level. But I believe it was because he was going through an emotional wound. So he needed emotional first aid. And in that moment, what he needed someone is to sit in that with him. Right. So it's the same thing in our relationship. So, but again, it goes back to being genuine. I'm not doing this just to get her to shut up. I'm not doing this just to keep the peace. I'm not doing this just to get my own way, or I'm not keeping tabs. Well, I'm gonna show up for her this time, and I'm gonna make sure you need to show up for me next time. No, it's from a place of genuineness. It's from a place of intentionality. But like I said, you cannot get to step 2 without going first to. It takes a person who is healed. And what's the word I'm looking for? I just can't come up with no words.
Your words stuck today?
They stuck. But they're whole, and not to say that you're perfect, but you've done the work to at least start that process, and you're growing in that process.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good.
Yeah.
And so the third thing that I've learned is once I learned that it starts with me, once I learned that it's always not about me, it frees me up now to give attention. And I've heard it said that love is spelled Time.
Correct.
And it's, for those of you who can't spell, it's time. That's what that spells.
That can be offensive.
Huh? Well, no, I know I'm not a great speller, so I know, what is SDK? You know what that stands for? Spelling don't count.
Oh. Tell me that every time I correct a text or a post.
Well, it may count that. I don't know. But for me, it doesn't count. So, what your spouse really needs, or what your partner really needs, is your attention.
Yeah. And undivided attention. Like
no distractions.
No distractions. Like cell phone up. Sometimes even the television off. Put some nice music on in the background and sit and have a conversation, or share a meal, or something that you guys enjoy, and just really spend time. Go take a walk, go out in nature, you know, do something that you really enjoy or learn to enjoy some of these things together without all of the distractions.
You said you hit the head on the nail. I'm sorry. The nail on the head. I know. I'm just messing around with you.
What? Okay.
Because that's something I had to learn, you know, and so now a lot of times, you know, like when we'll be sitting in bed and we'll have these long conversations, and you look, it's like, oh Lord, it's 12:03.
Right.
I got to get up for work in the morning.
For 2 hours.
You know, so, but again, what is that doing? That's really building the connection. And we, be honest, we probably don't do that as much as we need to be, because I'm a watch TV before I go to bed. That's who, and she doesn't like that. And so sometimes I compromise. I watch TV with my AirPods in, so at least the noise doesn't bother her. So that's one thing I'm working on, but I think I'm doing better. And I have learned some nights I'm going to turn the TV off, and maybe we've been reading a book.
Yeah.
You know, together. Maybe before we go to bed, we'll read the book together, and then we'll kind of talk about some stuff that we read, or, you know, so just doing that. But again, it's going back to the attention without distraction. So a couple of things, just noticing them. Start paying attention, you know, like noticing, you know, the clothes they're wearing, you know. And, you know, there's an episode of Everybody Loves Raymond, and Deborah was telling the kids on the show, she was like, I bet you $5 that, you know, your dad's not going to notice that I got a haircut. You know, and so it's stuff like that, just paying attention.
Pay attention. Your wife got a new nail polish color at the salon that she's never gotten before. You never noticed before. You know, say something about it, compliment it.
And when the more you start doing that, the more you're going to start noticing. Let them know what you think about it. You know,
listen, let me tell you.
Okay.
Glenn has this little regimen and this stuff for his beard and skin that smells amazing. And so every time he puts that on, I'm like Olive. I'm like the dog. I'm like sniffing, like, ooh, it smells so good.
Yeah. So, and here's the other thing: let them know what you think about them.
Yeah.
You know, let them know how much you appreciate them. Share what you love about them. Take part in what they love. Yeah. So, you know, again, I'm not really big on certain things. I'm trying to think of a good example.
My cooking shows or decorating shows, or
all of that. Decorating.
Right now, the Christmas Hallmark movies,
or even like with putting up Christmas decorations. I hate putting up Christmas decorations. I don't know if it's because we did it so much growing up. I don't know what it is, but I don't like doing it now. And but I know that Tanya loves doing that kind of stuff. So you know, I'm gonna put up the decorations with her, and again, now here's something that we've grown to, because we want to be open, honest, often, right? But we were decorating the tree, and she was talking about a certain thing with the tree, and I let her know, it's like, I really don't like that. I said, but you know what? I'm doing this with you, and if you like that just I'm in it with you. Let's do it, even though I don't like it, and I don't think it looks good. But if that's what you want to do, then go ahead for it. And I'm okay with that, because it's not fair that I just get to make all of this. You know what I'm saying? So, and there's a way to do that. But I think you recognize the genuineness in what I'm saying. And I'm not just putting on, and how does it look? And I'm like, oh, it looks great. And in my mind, I'm like, you know, so I'll let you know, like, hey, because just because I don't like the way it looks doesn't mean it doesn't look good. It looks good to other people, it looks good to you, you know, so that's important, I think, in relationships. So share what you love, share what you love with them. So there's certain things that I love, you know, that I want to share with Tanya, that I love
that I have. Some of them I've grown to really like. I've come to really like or love even some movie shows, things like that. There are certain like activities that
she still don't like The Office though.
I'll watch it. You know, I don't like despise it. You're gonna give me hate mail because these people out here love The Office.
But no, that's okay. And I know that. So like if I'm watching it and she comes into the room, I'll turn it off on purpose. Because I know, because I can watch that at any time, right? So I'll try to find. But anyway, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're good.
So yeah, so those are the three things that, and again, this is not one size fits all, but these are just overall areas, I think high level areas that you can investigate and work in, knowing and to help develop connection. And that's one of the, even, couples come to us all the time and say, we need help with communication. One good way to help with communication is connection.
Yeah. For sure.
Right.
For sure.
So number one, it starts with me. Number two, it's not always about me. And number three is attention.
Yes.
Right.
So good.
Yeah.
Good job.
So,
I loved it.
Anything else you got to add?
Nope. That was amazing.
All right. So always we want to thank you guys for joining us. Remember, we thank you so much for following. Thank you so much for subscribing. Thank you so much for commenting. Thank you so much for leaving reviews.
Yes.
And there was even one person who contacted me and was like, how can we financially support you guys? And we're working on something that if you want to do that, you can do that.
Absolutely.
So on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, we've been talking about getting the TikTok. We hadn't done it yet, but it's coming.
We'll see what the new year brings.
And so remember, you can, if you're watching this, you can listen to it you can also listen to it on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor. Pretty much anywhere you can find podcasts, we are there. You can watch us on Facebook, Instagram. If you're listening to this, you can watch it on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, Marriage Matters 0526. And also check out the new website for whole life coaching and counseling.
Yes.
If you're looking maybe to do some of this work, to do some of that healing, to do some of that growth, definitely go on over to wholelifecoachingandcounseling.com.
Yes.
Get some information. Reach out to us. You can book your sessions. We would love to have you as clients. So that's all we got. You got anything else?
That's it.
Well, as always, this is Glenn and Tanya reminding you that
your marriage matters.
We'll see you next week.
Bye.